Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the 1,775 poems of Emily Dickinson contained in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem number 42, A Day, Help, Help, Another Day. I'm fascinated by this poem. Here we will see Emily as pedagogue or teacher, Emily as making the argument that every moment counts. We'll be reminded, of course, of Horace's great Carpe Diem line, seize the day, take care of the opportunities that you have. I find this a remarkable poem, and it's so different from so many of the earlier poems that we've been studying of Emily's. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. And I'm hopeful that you have already had a opportunity to study the intro lecture. I mentioned that Emily is pedagogue. We talked about Emily in any number of from different perspectives. And we've worked all of the poems up to and including poem number 41, Robbed the Woods. Now, our background here is to just simply remind you that Emily is going to be a struggler at times with the way she will use her day. How will she fill her day up? Her biography, as we've commented already, is going to be in large part about all the chores that she has to do and the work around the house that she has to do. And when she can finally find time to do the things she loves, writing, it's often late into the night. Let's enjoy the poem. A day, help, help, another day. Your prayers, O passerby, from such a common ball as this might date a victory. From marshallings as simple, the flags of nations swang. Steady, my soul, what issues upon thine arrow hang? I cannot help but somehow feel like there's a certain amount of channeling of Homer's Iliad in a little poem like this. And I'm fascinated by the way that all of that martial language, that military language, is going to find its way into this poem. Of course, the exclamation points, as we've pointed out so many times already, Emily loves her exclamation points. A day, help, help, another day. You can almost imagine this in the morning when you wake up and you look out the window and you go, oh, it's another day. What is the attitude with which Emily will share this? Notice all those exclamation points are there for a reason, for a purpose. In other words, yes, another day. And if you've grown up around people who are much older than you, who every morning have that attitude, you should go and find them and tell them thank you, and then maybe even share with them Emily's poem 42, because that's really going to be her argument. Now, notice her use of the word help. When we meet poem 623, we're going to hear it this way. It was too late for man, but early yet for God, creation, impotent to help, but prayer remained our side. Emily, always struggling with her capacity to really believe in the idea of the religious ordinances, here in this case, the idea of prayer. When we meet poem 437, we're going to hear this one. Prayer is the little implement through which men reach where presence is denied them. They fling their speech by means of it in God's ear. If then he hear, this sums the apparatus comprised in prayer. Now, when we meet that poem later, when we do 437, we'll come back to this poem to remind ourselves. Notice she says, prayers are necessary, and then she calls for the passerby. That is to say, possibly even you. In other words, we all need a little bit of help, maybe would be her argument. And then she'll say something significant about this day. From such a common ball as this. Now, the word ball here is going to be able to be interpreted in any number of ways. Ball as in dance, or ball as in gunshot, as in a musket. And of course, it's probably that's what she's dealing with. From such a common ball as this might date a victory. And again, we go back to those moments in the Iliad. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net over all of the books of the Iliad. You remember those moments in the Iliad when there's it almost seems kind of random that somebody is taken down. Of course, we think of Paris's shot of the arrow to Achilles that will ultimately take him down. Of course, that's post-Iliad, no question. When we think of victory here, we'll also think about that classic Success is Counted Sweet as poem 67, as we're about to meet it here in a little bit. From marshallings, and again, we're back to this war language, as simple, the flags of nations swang. In other words, often victory is just on the borderline, right? And you never know what's going to lead to the victory. And then she speaks directly to herself. This will sound a whole lot like Whitman in our talks with Walt as we read through all the poems of Leaves of Grass. Study, my soul. And this idea of speaking directly to the soul we'll see in poems 139, Soul wilt thou toss again, and in poem 1151, Soul take thy risk. It's a wonderful little poem. Steady, my soul, what issues upon thine arrow hang. And the use of the word arrow here is what takes me back to the Iliad, of course, thinking about that moment in time when it looks as if we're going to be done and Menelaus has finally won his little contest, and then some idiot's going to shoot an arrow and sticks it into Menelaus, and then we're starting back again all over again. The idea of the arrow, I think, is as well a direct reference probably to the Achilles heel of Achilles and to the fact that he was shot in his heel by Paris. Think about the power of shooting an arrow as well as it relates to that Greek word hamartia from our study of Aristotle's Poetics, and the idea that sin, or hamartia, is the missing of the mark by the arrow. But I want to go now to poem 1174, and it's such a wonderful use of this idea. There's the battle of Bergen over every day. By the time that man and beast put their work away, sunset sounds majestic, but that solemn war, could you comprehend it, you would chastened stare. When we meet this poem, we'll come back to remind ourselves of this brilliant little poem, that in the end, every action matters. And of course, now at 2A, let's go there. We never know what opportunities are waiting for us, what opportunities would arrive if we would only maybe take that best shot with our arrow. At 2B, I love all the military language that's here, and the way in which this poem obviously would be read by those during the time of the American Civil War in profound ways. I think, of course, at 3A of any number of titles that come to mind. I've mentioned, of course, Horace's great little maxim, Carpe Diem. Think about Tennyson's Ulysses, how dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rest unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life, life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and violet were for some 3 suns, to store and hoard myself in this gray spirit, yearning and desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bounds of human thought. We've given a full lecture at learnstrong.net if you'd like to run that one to ground. A number of scholars have pointed out that Philip Larkin's classic Days is a wonderful way to recapture this idea. You remember this one, Days by Philip Larkin. What are days for? Days are where we live. They come, they wake us time and time over. They are to be happy in. Where can we live but days? Solving that question brings the priest and the doctor in their long coats running over the fields. I have a sense that maybe Larkin borrowing from a little poem like this. And 3B, finally, how are we going to own a set of lines like this? What was a time when you were able to use the opportunity that you had for a victory? And how hard is it for you to sustain your will day after day, to see that your day is of great potential benefit? And then finally, who in your life prays for you, and who do you pray for in terms of hoping for the best in terms of your next challenge? I hope that you will carry Emily with you in that challenge. Thank you.